You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, and now a man who's just here for the brain bleed. That's usually what I'm here for, guys. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris Voss. Be sure to refer the show, of course, to your family, friends, and relatives. You know, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you, but doesn't judge you. At least not as harshly as your mom does. Now go clean your room. Anyway, guys, youtube.com/Chris Voss, goodreads.com/Chris Voss. All of our big LinkedIn groups, LinkedIn newsletter, all those crazy places we're at on the interwebs. Today, we have an amazing gentleman on the show. Not only is he a doctor, but he's an author where we talk about his latest book called Torn: Overcoming the Psychological Challenges Post-ACL Injury. Came out May 6, 2022. Keagen Hadley is on the show with us today, and he's going to be talking to us about that and some of the other things he does as a doctor professional, if you will. He's a doctor of occupational therapy, a psychiatric and neurological clinical researcher, and an Amazon bestseller author who specializes in using psychological treatments such as ACT with clients. He's passionate about joint health, the psychology of injury, and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Keagen. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Chris?
There you go. Glad to have you. So let's talk about your .coms, where you want people to look you up on the interwebs, please.
Yep. You can find me at KeagenHadley.com or the ACLtherapist.com, as well as Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm pretty active at the ACL Therapist. So
there you go. So what made you decide to write this book on ACL therapy?
Yeah. So I played football for a long time through college and then briefly after. And as a result of that, I tore both of my ACLs. And I found that I actually struggled more with the mental side of those recoveries than, the physical rehabilitation. So
that'll definitely give you a first thing. Is that what made you want to become a doctor, or were you on your track to become a doctor before that?
I knew I wanted to be in medicine. I just wasn't really sure where. So I know I had spent time obviously playing football, in the PT room, but I also have a background of struggling with, my mental health as well. So I knew either psychology or physical therapy likely was the way I was going to go. I just wasn't 100% sure.
And what is the ACL tear? What is that like for those of us, just to lay a ground floor definition?
Yeah, so it's a tear of the anterior cruciate ligament in the knee. It's the knee that prevents your femur from moving forward over your tibia. So essentially, it's like the brakes of a car, essentially. Is kind of one way to look at it, but for your knee joint, obviously. So, and I tore both of those doing kind of the same type of movement, one going left and one going right. So I tore each one once, unfortunately. So.
Ouch. That's not fun. I mean, I know in the NFL and different places, a lot of sports that this happens. So you've worked in the field of specializing, I guess, in these ACLs for quite some time.
Yeah. Yep. Out of, more so necessity, because I found that, even when I was a collegiate athlete and I had a lot of resources as far as rehab goes, there was no one really there to talk through the emotional or psychological side of these injuries, the loss of self-identity, the loss of confidence, the poor coping mechanisms that these individuals usually, start to use, because coping, especially as an athlete, we usually use our sport for all type of coping. So if that's kind of taken away from you, you start to abuse substances, you start to make poor relationship decisions, and this, that, and the other thing. So
there you go. And you probably make poor choices that maybe affect your recovery.
Yes. Yeah, certainly. And then choices that affect not only your recovery, but, far-reaching aspects of your life as well in many cases. So
there you go. So what do you hope to achieve with the book? What do you hope readers come away with that will read it?
Yeah, so essentially it's kind of an introduction. It's not necessarily a how-to, because each individual is a little different, but it's an introduction to acceptance and commitment therapy, which is what I use. Not necessarily, I won't claim that I came to this conclusion just from my physical injuries. I definitely don't learn that quickly. I had to, as a result of my second knee injury, I started to abuse substances and then made some poor relationship decisions that led me to becoming in a relationship with someone who was a severe alcoholic. And I endured a lot of emotional abuse due to that.
Wow.
Culminating in me being suicidal for a time.
Wow.
So because of that was the situation that kind of led me to, I need help. I need to make sure I'm altering the trajectory of my life. So I tried to, go into therapy. And that's when I actually got probably the most frustrated, as I wasn't really seeing the, progress that I wanted to from traditional cognitive behavioral therapy. Scoured the internet and found acceptance and commitment therapy, and was lucky enough to, get transferred to a therapist that practiced that framework. And I started to slowly see progress. I started to slowly creep out of that hole. And so what I'm looking to do essentially is just provide a resource to let people know that there is a way to deal with what they're going through. And I'm also working with a number of other professionals in the physical therapy or athletic training realm where they can provide classes to implement these type of interventions, on the spot, so that your athletes aren't necessarily blindsided by these kinds of injuries and go down the same type of path I did.
So it's interesting. I mean, you're talking about dealing with the physical aspect of the injury, and of course that in itself is a thing, and then the mental health part and keeping your mental health correct, and that's probably a good healthy balance in order to get the best recovery, I think.
Yeah, certainly, because you can't pry apart. Everyone always seems to want to. I mean, you talk about physical health or mental health and just kind of split it apart, but I mean, there's only one of us, so I mean, they both kind of need to be taken care of simultaneously. So you can't only fix yourself physically and just leave the emotional well-being just out in the dirt, so to speak. So.
That's very true, because I left the mental health thing a long time ago. Everybody knows that who listens to the show. That horse left the barn, but I still got the physical going, at least for now, knock on wood. So I try and stick to one or the other.
Yep. Yeah, well, it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. Yeah, it works for me. I don't know. I mean, it's probably should read your book. That way I won't be. That way I can get some balance in my life. Yeah, people don't realize how important these things are, and it's interesting to me how you can talk about how people's lives can really change over an injury. I've had a few people that have been injured in motorcycle accidents and stuff, and it's kind of interesting how there can be a compounding of different problems they get themselves into, even relationships they get themselves into. Sometimes they end up with a caretaker girlfriend who wants to take care of them, but they were breaking up with that girlfriend when they were, they got their injury, and they all sorts of problems of needing help and stuff. So it's good to help people get in a mind frame. We noted in the bio that you believe in using the ACT or the ACT with clients. Talk to us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so many people have usually heard of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's kind of like a close cousin, I guess is what you'd call it, to acceptance and commitment therapy. ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy, was founded by Dr. Stephen Hayes. He has a bunch of books on the subject. He's been studying it for since like the 70s, 60s or 70s or something. So it's got a lot of research behind it. Essentially, there's one fundamental difference between CBT and ACT, and that is essentially what you're looking to do. So CBT looks to minimize the symptoms, whereas ACT more so gives you the tools necessary to function at an optimal level, no matter kind of what comes your way, because it's kind of preparing for the inevitable. It's to have a full and fulfilling life, there's going to be difficulties that come at you, and ACT kind of prepares you for those types of situations. And it does that through the 6 different pillars or foundational skills, which is diffusion, acceptance, self as a perspective, mindfulness, purposeful action, and values.
There you go. And it's good life advice on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
My mom had both of her knees replaced with the fake knees.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, there's a lot that goes into it. You just really don't realize how much you rely on your knees.
Yeah. It's for anyone that hasn't had a joint injury, it's pretty much astounding how much you actually use your joints when that you don't think about. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So.
Note to self: quit using joints. You just get injured already. So I'm going to stick with that. I think I've done too much of that already, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I started working out, got a hernia.
Oh boy,
it's one of those things where you're like, well, okay, maybe working out isn't as good for you. No, it actually is, people. I'm just being funny. So what are some other topics we need to tease out from the book that people can be enticed by? Go grab it.
Yeah. So essentially, one thing I dive into a little bit is kind of the culture's, I guess it's a conventional wisdom that you're never supposed to, feel poorly. I mean, if you're not feeling well, there's something wrong with you. And I'd like to, I talk about that in the book a little bit, that, that's, a part of life. You'd be more worried about someone if they lost someone they love and they weren't bothered by it. Stuff like that. So it's just preparing yourself for those kinds of things, and that's kind of the hallmark of the human condition and a full life. And as another thing is, because you have that pain, you can actually find a lot of passion in it, because generally when you're really hurting over something, like I was over the loss of my football career, you usually find something you're very passionate within that pain, but you have to be willing to sit with those feelings in order to find those things. That my whole, business, on entrepreneur side, has come from that. So, I mean, if people are willing to kind of look in what has caused them pain and what they have learned from it in the past, a lot of times you can find something you're supremely passionate about. And, you could work every hour of the day and still be, have a lot of energy coming from it. So
definitely when it wasn't an ACL, but a hernia tear from lifting weights. I for the first time in my life, I started going to the gym every day, 54, 53. And for a year and a half, I went religiously every day. Maybe there was a day I missed every now and then, but pretty much every day. And I would go work out for 2-3 hours, and I was doing just amazing things with my body. And then you injure yourself, and it's really depressing. It's even more depressing because you did it to yourself. Like, it's one thing if you get in a car wreck, and I'm not minimizing that, but you didn't really do it to yourself. I did mine to myself, and maybe
certainly.
And you see it from that lens, is sometimes it's kind of depressing at first, because you're just like, but I've learned to do what you said. I've learned to find another outlet to think positively, and it's just drooling in the corner and looking at the wall, and that seems to work for me now, because that's about all I can do. But until surgery. I'm just kidding. People know that's what I do anyway. I was doing long before that, just drooling, looking at the wall. That's pretty much the state I'm in when they don't prop me. Yeah, that's pretty much the state I'm in 24/7 when they don't prop me up on the show, put me in front of the mic, and they're like, dance. I'm like, okay. So this is really good. This is helpful for people, and it's got real life sort of things. Probably you can apply to anybody who's had a major industry. And, deals with the depression of it. You no longer can do the thing you love. Like, I can't go to the gym anymore. I really was falling in love with that. I know it's weird to say, but I'd really made a commitment to that. And I was proud of the fact that I was going every day for the first time in all of my life, and keeping with that discipline. And then to be knocked off, it's been hard to deal with until I can get back. And even then, I don't know if I can fully get back. I'm going to have to be careful. I think with ACLs, once you tear one, you've got to be careful not to tear it again, right? Don't you have a higher propensity to re-tear it?
Yeah. I mean, they're still doing a lot of research. It's kind of, there's not like this causes an ACL thing. That's why ACLs are frustrating, is because you likely, like I did and like many athletes have, done everything you were told by the strength coaches, just your coaches in general for years, and it just happens to you. So I mean, there's no real, they can't iron it out to one specific thing, which is frustrating.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you'd think that I don't know. We'd have better things to do for this, but it happens a lot. I know in football,
Yeah,
because football is such a crazy sport, and it's easy to get weight on that knee in the wrong way, and you're running a million miles an hour, hitting up against a brick wall. People that are running 100 miles an hour, and you're gonna tear something. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, football and women's soccer is kind of a bulk of who reaches out and who I
really
end up working with. Yeah.
Like probably soccer and rugby too, huh? Crazy days and times. So I noticed you on your website, you have some potential courses you're working on, things you're going to be putting out, I think, coming up. Talk to us a little bit about what you're planning to do there.
Yeah, so I'm currently working with a number of other researchers on how to implement this at a wider scale, because obviously I love to help people and I have a really hard time turning people away. But that being said, there's only so many hours in a day, and I realized that early on, and that was frustrating to me, because I don't want to. I know what it feels like in that situation, and I never want to turn people away. So I've been working with some physical therapists who are doing the research in order to implement a framework to provide to schools or other facilities that are going through athletics just in general. So if they do have an athlete that's hurt, they can go through kind of this protocol of this is how you start to implement acceptance and commitment therapy into their practice. Instead of just going over the physical things, they can start to implement that as well. And they'll probably also be like a rudimentary start to where they get all athletes acclimated as well, so that they're not just jumping on this as soon as they get hurt. An ounce of prevention is, worth a lot more than just jumping on it after the fact. So that's what we're working on, and we're hoping to have something this year. Would be fantastic, but I hate to overpromise.
Is there a way that people can reach out to you, work with you, consult with you? I don't know if you have a doctor's office set up somewhere, or
just shoot me a message on Instagram is where a lot of people have reached out to me. I'm active on there as far as fielding questions and things. I'm not on there as much as I should be, but I'll always respond to someone. So.
There you go. I mean, I imagine people have questions. It's a good book maybe for kids in their teens who are suffering injury. There's lots of these people that they're aspiring athletes, football, soccer, whatever the case may be, in high school or college, and then their professional careers are probably ruined because of ACL. And so it sounds like you talk some about prevention and trying to make sure that people don't do this wrong. Is diet an issue with ACL? Does it help if you take more muscle feeding formulas and proteins and stuff? Yeah.
So BMI, there is a decently strong correlation. Obviously, it's not in all cases, but you're at a higher likelihood if you have a higher BMI to tear your ACL than someone with a lower BMI. That's something I just did another lit review the end of 2022 to make sure I was on the getting the most recent data anyways, and I did find that was linked. It's not for sure, obviously, because the study groups weren't very large. It's not like these were 1,000 tears or anything like that, but they did show some light correlation to that.
It's crazy, man. And I suppose small tears lead to big tears. It's just one of those things. And then usually with ACLs, do they heal up, or do you kind of notice them when like some people notice broken bones when it gets cold or rainy or damp? How well do those heal up?
I'm presently in North Dakota, and the biggest issue for me is you have to train differently to make sure because it kind of feels like you're getting a leg transplant almost. Your leg never really feels quite the same. You have to really focus pretty much all your training on strengthening certain movements and things, and then you can get back to being normal. But it takes a while. But the one thing that does still bother me is I live in North Dakota, as I said, and we were just at negative 30 degrees, and now we were at roughly 30 degrees this week, and I had a lot of just aches because of the weather changes. So you do still get those kinds of things, because anytime you get cut open like that, you have some lingering issues with nerves and those kinds of things. So
my lobotomy still does that whenever it gets cold. Yeah,
I've heard those are bad with that.
Yeah, it's but the nice thing is I smile and I forget about it. It's all gone away. So it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I recommend it to everybody. So people are like, does he have a lobotomy?
You just had a bunch of people Google that. So
did. That's what I do. We make our own money getting people to Google stuff. Google buying gold. No, I'm just kidding. So there you go. But yeah, I imagine, people that are going to have long-term issues. And so they need your book more than ever because, there's long-term recovery, long-term experiential with it. I noticed here you got a free, you can download a free diffusion guide on your website. What's a diffusion guide?
Yeah. So essentially when I talked about myself slowly starting to climb out of the hole I was in, the issue I had that was very difficult for me to get over was cognitively fused thoughts. So essentially, I'll just give my own as an example. I always thought when I was having issues with mental illness, and then that was only compounded by my physical injuries, that the thought I am broken, and then that's a cognitively fused thought because you are not broken, obviously. So the slight difference. But you're not. That was only before the lobotomy. You're okay.
That was before the lobotomy.
Yeah.
I mean, every girlfriend has told me I'm broken, so I've just accepted it. I own it.
That's fair. That's a different conversation.
You can do a book on that one.
Next. Yeah. That's the next one. But essentially, it's going from that to realizing that I'm only having thoughts or feelings that I'm broken, and giving yourself that perspective to evaluate that thought and deem whether that is actually going towards your values, which again was another one of those pillars. So yeah,
there you go. I my biggest thing that I've dealt with in getting the injury with the hernia was just anger at myself. Like, you fucking idiot! You knew that was hurting. You kept pushing it, and I thought it was, I was working out my abs, and I thought, oh, it's just okay. You're doing muscle tears, it's hurting. But it was really hurting, and I was like, really just like, okay, I'll push it through, and I didn't realize, I had like a month to stop. It took time to tear it fully open, but and I was having pain, and it was like, dude, just stop. But I'm like, no, this is what you've done all your life. And so the anger and depression at yourself, is just like, you're such a fucking idiot. At least that's my mental conversation, because that's every day regardless of what I do. But my dogs look at me with the same sort of thing. They go, you're such an idiot, and we're dogs. We lick our bums and smell each other's bums, and you're an idiot. But no, the depression's real. The experience of the mental game that fucks you up. And yeah, like I say, I worked really hard for a year and a half, and then to watch it all go to hell. I probably can't lift what I was lifting, and my legs and stuff. And you're just like, God, I just wasted a whole year of my life. And, you can really spin yourself out if you're not careful.
Yeah. Again, if you don't have those skills in place to lean back on, again, because you were probably using, your newfound coping mechanism of working out, very rigorously to get rid of all your stress and stuff. So again, when that goes away, and if you hadn't built any other infrastructure there to hold those issues that you had, it's just going to come crashing down, and it'll cascade into all the other aspects of your life. So.
Most definitely. Well, anything more we need to tease out on what you do and how you do it?
No, just happy to help people get through these, walk with them through these issues, and be there, when no one else is.
What else do you see yourself doing for the future? Are you going to stay in the ACL sort of area? Do you plan on branching out to other ones? I imagine there's plenty of business in this.
Yeah, certainly there's plenty in this, but that being said, I have my own kind of the next challenge, which every time I go to the doctor now, they remind me that I'm on the expedited list for a total knee surgery, just because of the damage that was done to my leg.
Oh, so, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I'm focusing on just training, and essentially coming up with a blueprint for avoiding total knee surgery is kind of the hope. So
Yeah, I can't blame you, man. My mom, like I said, had double knee surgery, and I came and took care of her through both of them. It was hell. It was hell for her, especially because she was in her 70s.
Yeah.
So you know, you don't
It's hard
recover
to heal.
well. It's hard to heal. Man, if you've got to keep your weight right. You know, you definitely want to be skinny when you do it, because the less weight you can have on those things, and they want you moving like right away. Like they don't want you laying in the bed. Like I was like, okay, well, just lay in that bed for a week or two, like I would, and then get up and walk around. And they're like, no, you're not doing that. No, you gotta move those things. We got to get the joints going and the blood going, and I guess if you don't do that, you're gonna.
It'll lock up. So I mean, essentially, they would have redone all that, and then you need to start moving it immediately to regain, anything you might have lost. So it's definitely, you're on the clock as soon as you get out of there. So
and then anytime she bangs it or she thinks she's hurt it again, she gets really upset, and I can't blame her. I mean, it was hell to recover from, and especially at 70. I mean, that's why I got my knee surgeries out of the way. I did them at 30, so I don't have to. I got that out of the way. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But that's what we do here on this show. I did get the lobotomy done though. That helps too, and the plate in the head.
They just did it all at the same time.
Yeah,
you don't know
exactly.
if they did it or not. They might have.
Yeah. What's really cool about the plate in my head too from NOM was basically it works with the Moderna booster shot that I've gotten 4 of now. And do I still have the? Wow, I still have the Band-Aid on from it from a week and a half ago. Wow, that's weird. I just went to CS and everything, and it's still stuck on. When did Band-Aids start working that well? Holy shit. Maybe I shouldn't tear this off, maybe it'll leak out. Anyway, that's weird, man. When did Band-Aids are the only thing that works in life anymore, I guess.
That's the only thing that's improved in the last 6 years.
Yeah, I never go back there, so I didn't know there was a Band-Aid there. But yeah, between the plate in my head and the signals I get with from Bill Gates and stuff, I can call Elon too with the 4th booster that just came out.
You can plug stuff into it like an
You
iPhone.
can Twitter from it, with the Elon Musk made it so you can Twitter from it. You just yell at it, when you're drunk or something, and it makes the typical tweets. So this is really good, and I think it's important for the mental health game that you put in, because part of the physical health and how you feel and being depressed probably affects how you heal and the quality of how you heal and your body healing. And of course, getting into I quit drinking 2 or 3 years ago, just from I was just tired of the hangovers, and I started doing veganism, and I started listening to my body, and I could just tell that like 3 days were just like, it would drag me. I would just feel the dehydration. I would feel the bloat that you get from your body overstoring water because you dehydrated it. I just get tired of the game with it. It's like, okay, and you're just like a couple hours of fun. But yeah, if you're injured, last thing you want to be doing is drinking alcohol or taking drugs or different things. There's people that get stuck on opioids.
I was going to say that's a big one, especially for this particular population, because many times they're providing those things to you right after surgery, if you're going through surgery. So that's definitely a concern.
Yeah, I can see you could do really well with a lot of courses and books, maybe for high school coaches and college coaches, people that are training these folks, because I imagine that's where a lot of these injuries take place, like yours. People playing sports and trying to have fun with it, and you end up going the wrong way.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, you have a lot of those people. I mean, many high schools don't even have a athletic trainer, so it's definitely getting to the people who are dealing with the athletes the most. And in high school, I mean, those are usually just the coaches. There's not a lot of staff generally with high schools and things like that, but that's where it needs to be. Otherwise, you're catching the athletes too late. Likely. Yeah. So
preferably you can educate them on how to better cover stuff like that. I've seen those knee plates that people wear, and I don't know if they're for an injury that already happened, but you'll see they're like knee sleeves that they put on. I don't know if those help prevent ACLs or if those are more of a post-injury.
Are they like neoprene?
Yeah, they're like a neoprene scuba sort of thing that I'll see people put over their knees. So it slides up their leg, and maybe it has like a cushion or something like that on there.
a lot of times that there presently isn't a brace that they've shown, statistically prevents ACL injuries. That being said, there's two reasons that one might wear it. If the surgeon says to, because again, they're kind of the boss. But B, it could provide some, confidence if they're just not sure. But I don't particularly like that answer. But the last one is the sleeve that you're talking about specifically. They make ones that have been shown to, prevent against MCL or LCL injuries, which are the ligaments on the inside and outside of your knee. The ACL crosses in the middle with the PCL, but those particular sleeves you're talking about can help, but not for the ACL. So
there you go. I had something, and I still kind of have it, but it's a growth underneath the end of my right kneecap, and so it sticks out.
Slaughter, yeah.
Osgood-Schlatters disease. Yeah, that's it. I kind of just grew out of it and into it, but it was giving me problems when I was in junior high or high school. Now it doesn't bother me, but it still does stick out, I think, a little bit. But those are can be really frustrating. It's not most. Well, I wouldn't say most, but some people aren't as lucky, and they they need more assistance than that, but you just might be stubborn enough to make it work, I guess. Yeah, I just became fat and old, and so my body was like, okay, well, we give up. So there you go. Well, it's been insightful to have you on, Keagen, and thanks for the insight and stuff. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs, please.
Yep, KeagenHadley.com, or probably easier to spell, the ACLtherapist.com. ACLtherapist.com, and you can find him on LinkedIn, every place else. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold, folks, but don't only go to those fine selling bookstores. Stay out of the alleyway ones. I got mugged last week in one. Torn, overcoming the psychological advantage, or let me recut that. Torn, overcoming the psychological challenges post-ACL injury, May 6, 2022, by Keagen Hadley. Order up wherever fine books are sold. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out, man.